Greetings, button lovers, and welcome to episode 1 of the ClicksCast. It's a podcast from the team behind Clicks, a family of accessories keeping phones productive and fun in 2025. From Brooklyn, New York, the offices of Coffee Check, I'm Michael Fisher, a tech YouTuber and co-founder of Clicks, and I'm joined today by two of my fellow co-founders. From Winnipeg, Kevin Mitchelluk, a.k.a. Crackberry Kevin. Kevin, hello.
Heyo.
And from Toronto, Jeff Gadway, a.k.a. Architect of the Jeff Protocol. Jeff, hello.
Good day.
I'm outnumbered. Two Canadians. This is good. This is going to be a very friendly show. I can tell because I've known these men for years. We will talk about what the Jeff Protocol is and the origin story of Clicks and all the other stuff you expect from a self-serving startup podcast such as this. But they always taught me in writing classes that you start the story when the glass is already falling off the table and shatters. Only later do you go back and explain why it fell. So we're going to kick off by assuming that the folks listening to episode 1 already know that Clicks is a case that added a full physical keyboard to the iPhone in 2024, and that 1 year later, we're bringing it to Android. It was a nice reveal. If you're watching on the video, I screwed that up and covered the whole new product with my hand. This is fun. I haven't podcasted in a while. I'm enjoying this already. Why a podcast? Why? Well, a couple reasons. For one, we get a lot of questions from customers and fans and, frankly, skeptics. And a conversation between us is often the best way to address that. Also, it's a really fun challenge to build a company and a family of products. And we wanted to share a peek behind the curtain at that process. You know, something not as polished or obviously as a fully produced video or a big blog post, but a peek behind the curtain. And maybe, if anyone listens to this, we will make some exclusive announcements on the pod in the future.
Jeff Protocol engaged.
Oh no. Wait, no, Jeff, you have to let us have some fun. That is enough table setting for me. Let's get into this. Kevin and Jeff, this is perfect timing because you are freshly back from a transatlantic voyage. And I want to kick off by asking the two of you something I haven't even asked you in real life yet. You have been to Barcelona with Clicks for a big trade show called the Mobile World Congress, which phone geeks across the world have heard of from the usual suspects in the tech media landscape over and over and over. But we seldom get the flip side perspective. We always get, yep, I was there, I was in Barcelona, I saw the new gadgets, some were cool, some were concepts, some were lame, and here's that. I almost never hear the other side, the flip side perspective from brands who go to have these like meetings and have secret handshakes and make deals. Tell us what you can about MWC 25 from that perspective.
Well, I'll just say this to start. I don't think Kevin or I are feeling fresh in terms of
Not at all.
Being freshly back. It was a week, man. It was a week. But I'll let Kevin, kick off because he's most freshly back. He just got back late last night, I guess.
Late
right?
last night, yeah. It was a 1 week adventure, and it was a couple days longer than intended because I may have got sick at the end of the trip, so I needed to recover before the flight home.
Always.
I'll say this, Michael. I've been to MWC many times on the tech media side of the equation, the same as you. Mm-hmm. This is my first time going as a brand because typically I'd like to stay away from that event as much as I love Barcelona. I'm like, CES takes its toll. The year is on its way. I've got work to do. And I typically have bad travel luck going to that event. It's just, it's cursed for me. But to the point where even last year I refused to go, much to the chagrin of everybody on the Clicks team. They're like, Kevin, you got to be there. It's year one. And I'm like, no, I hate this trip. I'm not going. I don't want to jinx our year. I'll stay home, which I did. But this year we had some meetings that were lining up and I wanted to go, which helped. And coming back, I have to say, it's actually I think it's maybe a much better event from a brand perspective than CES, and that was a shock to me. And I'll give you a couple quick reasons why. CES is a huge event. It's a spectacle every year. And most of us in the industry, whether on the tech media side or I think of the brand side, everybody it's a scary way to start the year, right? January 1st hits, you have a couple days, and then you're flying into Vegas. And people who do it year after year working for brands or work for the big tech companies, They try to minimize their days on the ground. They want to come in late as possible. They want to leave early. But while they're there, they're booked up start to finish, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And unless you're on a schedule, you're not going to really find a lot of like serendipitous stuff happening on the ground to build new relationships and things like that. And I think for MWC, for the brands that fly in for it, people don't have, especially if they're North America based, they can't get in and out as quick of the city, right? They're taking a long haul flight to get there. They want to spend a few days there. Their days are longer when they're there. They're going to make the most of their nights there, and then they're going to head home. And what happened for us is we had busy days, and when we were in scheduled meetings with different companies, we had more access to people. So we might have had one person on the meeting agenda, but then 2 or 3 or 4 more joined by the end of the meeting because they were around and they were available and they want to see and hear the story. That's fantastic. That never typically happens. So that happened a lot. And then the social engagements at night were with people way above our pay grades in a lot of cases, which was super cool. And I think it was because we were in Barcelona for MWC. So that's something I never recognized before. And I will be back every year because I think we got done 6 months of work if you were to try to do it over emails and Zoom calls and meets and things like that in literally 4 days. And I never said that about a tech event before. So as a brand, I think it was amazing, and we'll do again. The curse is broken. Going back.
Well, yeah, you and I traded this time. This year, I said, no, I've gone for 10 years. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry.
Jeff, is that fair though? Like, from a brand
think
perspective, I was like, this is amazing.
I mean, I've been there many times as a brand before, right? Like, in my early 20s, I was making the regular annual pilgrimage to Barcelona for MWC when I was at Blackberry, and even last year I went with Clicks. But this year was very different because we had the tailwinds of a strong year. People knew Clicks already, and particularly within the Android ecosystem, we just announced 3 new Android Clicks keyboards, and so everybody knew it. Everybody wanted to see it. And whether we were hanging out at the Motorola booth or, hanging out at a bar in the city, it caught people's eye and it drew people in. And so I think even compared to last year where we were pretty new and there was already buzz around Clicks, I think we were in a whole different ball game. And I think that opened a lot of doors for us this year that we couldn't have gotten into last year, similar to what Kevin was saying with some of the different brands.
When you said we were right on the backside of that launch, I mean, you were like, we announced on, I don't know, what, Tuesday, and then 4 days later, you guys were on your way. So yeah, this was brand new.
And that was part of the strategy too, like launching, and this is something I think I've come to learn and we all experience, like Michael, from your side, you're facing the deluge of pitches from different brands, MWC and CES for that matter. And
inbox always full. Yes.
Yeah. So part of the method to the madness was announce Clicks for Android the week before so we could get into some clean air and then ride that into MWC versus trying to drop the news right in the middle of MWC along with every other brand in the known universe and probably get drowned out. And I think the bet paid off.
But it wasn't followed by what we would typically have done because we moved our dates. Like things happen all the time. This is a thing that I think a lot of people don't see on the outside, because whether you are talking about a startup or a giant corporation, more often than not, things are not going according to the original plan because plans are all fluid everywhere, right? So I think what we would have done, in an alternate universe, if some timing had worked out differently, we would have had Android samples on site and done the thing we always do at a trade show, which is like, come on by, see us at the mini showstoppers, the show within a show, and get your hands on it and get a bunch of filming. We didn't do that this year because we only had just a handful of handmade samples. And so as a result, I had a lot of my media friends say like, yeah, we want to come see it. We're going to be in Barcelona. I'm like, well, it's just hold tight. And
this is one of those things too. Like we did debate and arm wrestle this quite a bit because coming off of last year where we announced and then there was this vacuum of time between our announcement and initial pre-orders and shipping, we said we want to try to be tighter this time around. But I think in our heart of hearts, we're like, there's a moment, the market's asking for clicks for Android, and was it Reid Hoffman or one of those VC guys that often is known for saying, if you wait till you're ready, you've waited too long. I mean, I think the quote's a little bit different. Like if you're proud of your first product, you've waited too long to ship it or something like that. But I think this was really affirming for us that we had something that was really special. Why should we wait to share it with the world? Let's start to build some awareness and take advantage of this opportunity that we have between announcement and when we start shipping clicks for Android, and just start beating the drum and build a bit of a rolling thunder around the storytelling, where we can own our destiny and be the ones to shape the story the way we want it to be seen.
So to avoid burying the lead, I promised that we would stick to the most fresh new stuff that we had to talk about for this first episode, and let's talk about it for anybody who doesn't fully understand what we have announced for Android. Like, we have spent the past year selling and building iPhone for clicks for 10 different iPhone models, right?
How many?
Is that correct?
Kevin is the owner of the SKU list. He's the master SKU.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
How many
take
SKUs
it up,
do we
There's
have?
a lot. I mean,
There's a lot.
14 Pro, 14 Pro Max. That's in 2 colors each, so that's 4.
Mm-hmm.
We have iPhone 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max. 4 colors for each of the Pros, so that's 8 plus the 4, 12. 13, 2 colors each, 13, 14, 15, 16 colors.
We're already at 24 SKUs, not even at 16 yet.
Correct, yeah. And then iPhone 16, I lost track. It's a lot. I'm going to open the spreadsheet.
It's a forest. Like, I mean, people are like, why are you only on iPhone? It's like, well, there's a lot of iPhones to cover, first of all.
Yeah, if it was only easier.
And what people don't recognize is that each and every single one of those SKUs requires its own tooling, its own molding. We'll do a whole separate episode on the manufacturing and the path to getting something to market, but it's not an insignificant amount of work. And so
Jeff, I had heard that before, and look, I've heard that from a lot of manufacturers in my capacity as media guy, right? Where I'm like, they're like, yeah, we got to do new tooling, we got to do new molding, and I'm like, and it eventually just kind of became this soup that like thickened into a paste in my brain. I'm like, yeah, this is what they say and whatever. It wasn't until we were having these conversations internally and I realized that with each one of those terms, you're attaching a really large dollar figure with like a comma and a lot of numbers where I've never seen them before. I'm like, oh, wait, okay. So making even a case, not even counting a keyboard, like making a case that is custom molded for a phone itself is just an enormously expensive, costly undertaking. I never respected or realized that until I got into this side of the business. It's crazy, which I love. It wasn't a question. Sorry, Jeff.
No, you're right.
So here's what we did. So we did, as I said in my Mr. Mobile video, we kind of did the obvious thing first, or at least I announced that first in the video. We took what we had built for the iPhone, we basically ported it to Android, but because we did it a year afterwards, we were able to incorporate all of the improvements we brought to the iPhone 16. Because when we launched Clicks for the iPhone 16, we were we had done it for 14 and 15 already, and we had the opportunity for kind of a V 1.5. So all the improvements that I won't list them, we won't make it a commercial, but the new material, the redesigned keyboard, the bigger buttons, the everything. The Android version is the best form of Clicks we can make for the traditional slab form factor. And then in a remarkable turn of events that I'm still going to ever be grateful to you guys and the rest of the team for allowing me to have, we built the Weirdo as well. Clicks for the Motorola Razr, which just opened up a whole
Razr Berry.
new
Everybody's
frontier
calling
for
it a
me.
Razr Berry.
Oh,
Michael,
is that
you
what
can
it
lean
is?
into
This is
it.
gonna be my
People are
question.
saying it's
People
not
are
us.
saying
That's
Jeff
true,
was
it's not us.
Jeff was in the Motorola booth at MWC, and we were kind of hanging out near where the Razrs were on display, and he happened to tuck it into his shirt pocket, and then from across the room, somebody else was
say
that the
happen-
Razr Berry?
You say happened to as though it wasn't completely deliberate, by the way. But
Was that the Razr Berry? Wow, that's
Wow,
true.
really?
You tucked it in. It went away into hiding, but it was seen instantly. But
So
it was called out loud by its nickname, the Razr Berry.
I want to talk about the Razr Berry nickname, but I just want to say, like, for anybody who doesn't understand why this is significant, like, yes, you can open the Razr, you can use Clicks with the Razr deployed, but because it's a folding phone with a very capable cover display, it's it addresses a pain point from some people that Clicks makes a phone taller, and that the Razr Berry is essentially this BlackBerry size.
Can we also talk about the name for that external display? Because it's like, is it a cover display?
It's a cover display.
Is it a lens?
No, it's
is it an
not.
external
It's
display
not.
or is it a lid?
Motorola specifically calls it the external display.
Yeah, and then
We asked
Samsung,
about
there's
this.
a flex view window or something. And I'm like, this is my media side. I'm like, yeah, I don't care what you call it. This is what it is. This is what, this is what the
I
market
like
Yeah.
lid.
I like the lid. I like lid.
It's a lid.
But
Yeah, it was like a toilet term. No, we're not just calling it a lid.
but this is okay. I'm embracing the lid. The funny thing is, when you put it in people's hands at MWC, the first thing everybody wants to do is open the lid, right?
Yes.
And use it open. And Kevin would be like, no, okay, just close it. Like it's about retraining people to think it's the flip phone you never need to flip open, because when you've got that 4-inch lid that you can run all sorts of lid doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, we'll try it.
4-inch screen
display.
that
Yeah.
you can run every single app on unencumbered by the keyboard. I mean, when I've been using it, I open the phone maybe 10% of the time. What would you say, Fisher, when like in your use, in your day to day, like what do you have to open it for?
Open the Razr, because I've like, this is not just a Razr review device or one we bought. Like, this is my Razr. Like, this is my daily driver. So I've already trained myself to use the cover display as often as I can, just because I like doing it and I like stretching it to see what its limits are. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I almost never. I would say, to answer your question, 20% of the time I have to open the phone, because there are some apps that just don't run well in the square that are, YouTuber-y apps. But
I mean,
that,
the reality is, if you grab your phone 200 times a day and use it, probably 80% of the times you grab it, it's messaging, right?
Yeah.
You got a notification, you got something came in, you're checking what it is, and maybe you're doing a quick response, and you never have to open it when it's that now.
So can I, before we get too far away from the Razr Berry name, I want to say this is a great point overall about the kind of the market deciding what it's going to call your thing. Like, you can make, we've got other products coming up down the. I tried steering us internally. I didn't even say anything. I never even brought it up to anybody on the team. But folks, whenever I would share a document or a diagram or something related to the Clicks for Razr, I would kind of call it like the Razr Berry / Clicks Pocket, because I thought that was a cute name. And I waited for literally anyone to bite on that, and no one did. I'm like, okay, we're not calling it that then, you effers.
Like a Polly Pocket, but for your phone.
But the thing is, I didn't want to call it a Razr Berry, even in jest, because it turns out a lot of people are making variations of this. There's a lot of old BlackBerry keyboards out there. There's a lot of maker products. And the flip phones are a big old target for people because of all the reasons that we built it. And they started calling it a Razr Berry kind of colloquially on Reddit. I'm like, guys, we can't call it that because it's that's like what's the opposite of a term of art. And Kevin goes, no, that's not correct. Kevin, when did you find the byline from? 2005?
Yeah, we were using the term Razr Berry in 2005 to talk about the Motorola Q prototypes before I think Moto released the Q, which was their BlackBerry-like device with a QWERTY. So that's been named. Like I think the first posts were maybe from Engadget with the OG founders, right? Was it
Peter Rojas,
Ryan Block? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Crackberry Kevin has articles going way back to then too, talking about the Razr Berry. So to me, it's always been like the Moto phone with a keyboard is full QWERTY is a Razr Berry, right?
And that dovetails with something that, like, often there's an assumption of, this happens in media too. There's an assumption of what do you call it? Cheating on a test.
Plagiarism?
Yeah, plagiarism. There's an assumption of plagiarism. And a number of years ago, after I moved to New York and I started hanging out with a bunch of other YouTubers and tech writers in person all the time, when we would all write about a thing, a lot of us would draw the same conclusion and a lot of us would frame it in the same way. And we were not copying each other's papers. We were just thinking the same way, and we were hanging out and talking about this stuff. And what I find very interesting is that the exact same thing happens in products. We get people unsolicited sending us pitches and little renders and being like, I designed this, maybe you guys could build it. And it's like, wow, we were literally working on that for the past 2 weeks. How did you know?
Well, it's funny.
What? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, even colors, right? So
yeah,
what we knew before Clicks was even the name of the company, it was decided that when we do a black version, it's going to be called Onyx as a nod to the old Blackberry 9700, which came to market years ago under the code name Onyx. Never launched as Onyx. It was just called the Onyx, the device, and we're like, man, that'd be a great color name. That'd be a great name for a product or something.
Yeah.
So we knew our nod would be Onyx. And then once we named it Onyx, I've seen Onyx pop up on different colors. Like I think my Whoop band I bought recently came in Onyx, and I'm like, oh, Onyx is kind of maybe it's common, but we're using it. But our origin story was, it's
we
a
always
nod to
had the coolest internal product names at BlackBerry that never saw the light of day, like Onyx, or another one that I loved was Javelin. Was the name of a
Curve
curve.
8900.
Yeah, Javelin. I'm like, oh, that's such a badass name, right? And so we're gonna take all those names.
Kickstart was good for the Pearl Flip. Kickstart would have been much better than the Pearl Flip name.
I gotta say that's one of my least favorite moments in our journey internally, because we at one point had too many new products to talk about, and we had to come up with code names. And then like I came up with a bunch because I was so excited for that opportunity, and then I hated my own code names. I was like, damn it, no, these arise organically. But one of the nice things is not even a name, not even a design, but just even the prototyping. When we were doing this internally, we had already started like literally cutting Clicks in half to shove a flip phone into. And then we started getting tweets and things of people sending us photos like, hey, I think I just voided my warranty. And they're doing the exact same thing out there. It's like, oh, God, So it can be, we'll get to this in the Q&A portion. It can get a little bit, not irritating, but it can get a little bit, where the conversation is going when somebody says, hey, have you ever thought about, and then they describe something you're prototyping a billion times over. But it's so delightful on the flip side of that when everyone is experimenting the same way you are. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, we're going to make something that a lot of people are going to at least take a look at. So that's fun. Jeff, what did you do at BlackBerry, just to tell everybody what that's?
Boy, I was there for better part of 10 years. I started as a co-op student working with it was called like channel marketing. So we supported the wireless carriers. I started on Rogers in Canada. Then I moved to supporting Sprint Nextel, which I know has a very special place in your heart. And
my old employer,
was responsible for launching everything from the 8350i Direct Connect to the purple BlackBerry Style. And then I kind of got to a point where I was feeling a little frustrated. I wanted, I'd say, better inputs to the go-to-market. And so I said, well, if I want that, I got to be the one to go and participate in that. And so I started kind of moving up the stack, getting closer and closer to the epicenter, working in product marketing, brand management. And at the end of my tenure, I was leading BBM marketing. So I took BlackBerry Messenger cross-platform from BlackBerry to Windows Phone, iPhone, Android. That was a fun one. And towards the end, I also had the opportunity to get up on stage and be the guy to help introduce a number of different products like the Passport and the Classic.
I love it. I never get
I have them both right here
rundown.
in hand.
Yes.
Which would be your favorite between the two, if you had to pick one?
Ooh, me?
Passport.
Oh,
You are incorrect.
Passport.
Oh, you're also incorrect.
I liked the Classic, but the Classic was an homage to an earlier thing, whereas the Passport was a totally wild thing, which I hated when it was first announced. And it grew on me for ages.
The funny thing about Passport was, we knew it was different. It wasn't everybody's taste. But we got up on stage and we really leaned into telling a story about being different, right? And evaluating Passport on a different set of criteria for a different sort of user. And I remember getting off the stage after the event and somebody saying, well, we've already pre-sold 200,000 of them. And so the story was resonating, and that's not like a pat on the back, but just that we did something that was new and novel and very unique, and figured out a way to find kind of an attack vector of the market that was distinct from all of the candy bar slabs that were the prevailing form factor, and I think it paid off.
No, well, what I was going to say, I think it did pay off, but it's a shame, Jeff, that you can't apply any of those lessons to anything we're doing at Clicks. There are no commonalities at all.
None whatsoever.
I mean, I mean, there is something there if you think about the BlackBerry checkbook that was conceived of
Ooh.
around the same time as the BlackBerry Passport and
Mm.
didn't come to market because the Passport prevailed. But the BlackBerry checkbook basically was Clicks for iPhone in terms of form factor. It was a portrait device with a QWERTY at the bottom. And this is in the pre-priv slider era. So
No moving
really,
parts, just a
yeah,
slab with a QWERTY keyboard at
just
the
it was the
bottom.
Clicks form factor.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
probably new info to the world. We might have to dedicate an episode to that
I was
down
going
the
to
road.
say,
But
Kevin, thank you for reading
planting
my
seeds.
mind. I was like, I know
BlackBerry
you knew
checkbook.
some
Heard it here
things.
first.
Yeah.
More to come.
But no, just like broadly, that's exactly the Passport story really mirrors what a large part of the work with Clicks over the past year has been. It's like people don't immediately understand that the product you bring to market it may not be for them, because I feel like there's an assumption among everybody that like, oh, every company launching a new product is doing so to attract mainstream, acceptance. And I think one of my favorite things about what our mission statement has been is that that's never been the core of it. It's like, what did we say? This is a 1 in 1,000 iPhone user product, and if that's a threshold we can meet, then it's a good business.
Well, what to not to correct you, but what I'd clarify is before we took the risk to spend a bunch of money
Yeah.
to build prototypes and launch the company, you have to build a business model and come up with some projections. And there's no existing market to look at here. We're starting at zero. So we have to start with a case study. And I think we kind of said, well, is this for, every iPhone user? No. Is it for 1 in 10 iPhone users? Probably not. Is it for 1 in 100? Maybe, but we don't know. But if you said, or you walk down the street with Clicks and you showed 1,000 iPhone users it, is 1 in 1,000 going to like it and love it? Probably, absolutely, yes.
100%.
And once we came to market and launched, and we saw the demand and the reaction and the reality of it, it's much higher than 1 in 1,000. Maybe it is more like that 1 in 100 would be a more accurate representation. But it's the point you're making is very valid, right? It's a specialist product that's intentionally for a specialist user, a person who wants it. And it's a preference, though. I'd look at it as no different than, do you like to use pens and write on paper to take your notes, or do you like to take your notes on a laptop and type with your fingers? And I think that's true of buttons on a phone. Some people just prefer it. So whether you think of it as a specialist thing or a niche, it's just not the most popular one that's there for the 99%.
Now,
or the 90%.
The year plus that we've had to kind of learn from our adventure so far has given us some really good user feedback in a couple different divisions. And one thing that I cannot move on without talking about, or at least touching on, because it's in the rundown I wrote, is we didn't announce releases this generation for Android for the XL, the Ultra, the Pro Max phones. We did not announce for the big guys. Why not? Jeff, you get to answer, because if anyone else does it, they'll get fired.
No, I mean, I want to be as honest as possible, right? Like, I think part of it is coming back to the earlier conversation about making decisions and having to make trade-offs, right? When you're a company that's early and that wants to do things well with a high degree of quality and a high degree of execution, you need to place your bets. And given that every single model that we build requires very specialized tooling engineering and molding engineering, and all of that carries a not insignificant price tag, doing every permutation of every leading Android phone is just untenable, right? And then you have to decide, okay, if we're not going to do everything, what do we do? And as you can imagine, some of the form factors like the Galaxy Ultra introduce some challenges with what do you do with an S Pen, right? Whereas, others, you have to kind of trade off market size for usability. And it's unrefutable that when you put Clicks on an already big phone, it gets massive. And even though a lot of people say they want it, just because you could do it, should you do it? That's the debate, right? I mean, I'm not answering your question 100%, but
no, that's okay. I knew you weren't going to, but debate is the right word, Jeff, because internally we go back and forth on this all the time. That's a great point, Jeff, and a lot of people make it. My point has always been that look, a big phone, an Ultra or a Pro Max or whatever, is already too big. It is already past the threshold of comfort for most people. So if it's going to be that big anyway, why not keep it too big and add a keyboard to it so you get a lot more utility out of it? That's my perspective, but totally. Like we go back and forth on this all the time, and we constantly evaluate what's going to be the next thing that we spend a lot of money and time developing, right? And
so let me flip this question back around to you as it pertains to the Razr versus the Galaxy Z Flip.
I love this. I love this because it actually puts us right into the Q&A segment. This is literally a question from our first Q&A person from social, 5monkey on Threads. Ever since seeing the Clicks keyboard for the Razr really made me think, with the better software longevity, would you and the team consider making one for the Samsung Flip? So, Jeff, what's your question on that?
Yeah, again, this is like, one's got a bigger market opportunity. One delivers what I think we believe to be a superior product experience. The Razr has a larger external display, or has a
Yes.
a larger lid.
I'm not calling it a lid.
Well, we need a better name. It can't be
Cover
lid. It
display.
can't be
That's what
external display. It can't be
everyone
cover
calls it.
display.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's
The top
Well, if you're gonna call it
side.
cover, call it a lid.
It's the Clicks display is what it is.
Clicks display. It has a bigger display, and I think from what you told us, because I remember the conversation vividly, you said, well, it can run more apps, and it can run more apps more competently. And so in my mind anyways, and curious to get Kevin's take on this, but when you add Clicks to that, it becomes even more transformative because it delivers the best Razr Berry experience. And that's what I think we should be optimizing for first, not optimizing for market opportunity. That's like, soulless corporate stuff. It's like, how do we build the best freaking product, period? And that's, I think, where we went.
Just to keep the record clear, I did the Samsung product can also run this. The Samsung Galaxy Flip 6 we're talking about, folks. It is the Motorola Razr that's the Samsung version, and it can run the same number of apps. It's just its cover display is smaller, and also you have to take more steps to run those apps. And something I didn't know when we were having those initial conversations, Jeff, I didn't remember, it makes you use a different keyboard on the cover display, and that limits us even more. So there were a lot of limiting factors that kind of worked together to make.
My apologies. I stand corrected.
No, not at all. We're going to get.
But I think Jeff made the point, though. It's, build great products. And when you're a new, young company, it's not a game to, I don't know, make as much money in the little amount of time as possible. Like, I think a lot of people go into business thinking that's the case. I think for us, we want Clicks to be a great company, period, full stop. But we're all signed up that if it takes a decade to become a great company, that's okay, because there's nothing else I'd rather be working on than establishing and building a great company. So I think for us, you want to build the best product you can at any given moment in time. You want to find your true fans of the product. And I think for us, why did we not start with Android? Well, why did we start with iPhone? It's a great question to get into. Maybe that could be its own episode even. Mm-hmm. But I think for us, when we brought it to Android, we knew we needed to have the product ready for Android users who probably would be more of the recent hardcore Blackberry users who've held onto those devices the longest. So letting them get the benefit of a year of product testing by the iPhone users probably wouldn't be something they might be mad that they had to wait to get a product, but they'll end up with something that gets the benefits of experience behind it on manufacturing and everything we learned along the way. And I think building for Pixel first was also something we learned, right? Because if we started with Android day one, we probably would have started with, Samsung Galaxy slabs out of the pocket. And what we saw was that Pixel people were very vocal all year long about being the product they wanted to see it for. Razr people didn't even know to ask for it. So right now, Razr's getting a lot of attention, and it's such a cool form factor and design for all the obvious reasons. But the Razr community wasn't the one paying attention to Clicks for iPhone at all before. So I think starting with Pixel and Razr makes sense because it's a great product and innovation with Razr Berry. And Pixel is giving, responding to the market that was most vocal to us.
I think that's a good opportunity for me to go on the record with a public apology to Crackberry Kevin, because in the run up
Oh,
to here we go.
wow.
This is
Whew.
I need a
I'm
glass of water
not
here.
too big of a
I'm
choking
man
up.
to apologize and admit when I was wrong. Kevin was saying all along the clicks for Razr is gonna sell more Razrs, and I was thinking to myself, Razr's an expensive niche flip product. Maybe it'll sell one or two, but when you go to the comments section on the launch video, and even when you go, to the posts, like a post we're making, the comments, there are so many people writing, I just bought a Clicks, or I bought a Clicks and I bought a Razr, or I bought a Razr so I could buy a Clicks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like blown away. I love that it's happening. I didn't expect it to be happening en masse, but Kevin, that's why they call you Crackberry Kevin. You just know.
Yeah, a lot of years, a lot of gray hair in there.
I'm gonna relieve you of some of that guilt, Jeff. I also did not dare to think that this would be because I was the one riding so hard for the Razr this whole time. I'm like, guys, this is the new experience. This is all billion reasons I want to do this. It's just also a lot more fun. But I never even gave myself 2 inches of hope to expect that people were going to buy it in numbers. So I'm
Look,
very grateful.
I mean, obviously, as a new ClicksCast episode 1, we're all going to find our personas over time. And, Jeff's the ex-Blackberry guy who actually worked there, but I'm probably the one who's going to talk about it the most out of habit. It's one of those things in my life that I can't step away from no matter how hard I try. Is bringing it back to a conversation about old Blackberries, baby. And I think at any given time, people want to know what is the product on the market that can give them the closest thing to their BlackBerry experience. And in 2024, coming into 2025, there's a handful of answers you can give, and none of them have been ideal. Probably the most prevalent one I see is still people clinging on to their old BlackBerry, right? Whether it's a BlackBerry Key 2 that hasn't received software updates in years, they can't find it, it's broken, or buttons are falling off. There's a couple other options on the market that, I don't know if we'll get into them here or not, but there hasn't been a great answer, and there has never been that flagship BlackBerry Key 3 device that people really want, right? It's always been a compromised, here's a low-cost Android handset that doesn't get security updates and the buttons fall off in a week. Here's something else that maybe will do it, but probably isn't what I want. It's not what I'm looking for. And somehow magically putting clicks on the Razr gives you a flagship BlackBerry that's kind of more specced out and better than any BlackBerry that was ever built, right? It's the best.
It runs
arguably,
Instagram.
Yeah, it has all the apps. It
There
runs
is that.
Instagram. It's got 5G. You can flip it open and hold it like a camcorder. Like, it's actually the greatest BlackBerry that was never built, is kind of the weirdest thing when you pick it up and use it in that closed state. And then the fact that you can open it up, have this one of a kind, maximal experience, and then you can always pop off clicks in a second if you need to. It's kind of an amazing device. Like, it's just fun, a lot of fun, and functional.
You've sold me. I'll take one. I'll take
There you
2,
go.
in fact.
I'm not even trying to sell. I'm just excited about it because it's so fun.
I agree. It is super fun.
But my daily driver, coming to the extreme end, is I'm on the Pro Max version of Clicks on the iPhone as my primary device this year, or since we released it for the iPhone 16. Last year, I was the opposite. I used the smaller version of Clicks, and I thought the big one was too big. And then it's kind of like TVs in your house. You kind of never regret going bigger somehow. And maybe to your point, Michael, the Pro Max is already big.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the size you're used to, getting the smaller version of Clicks with a keyboard, they're kind of now similar in size. So it makes the smaller version of Clicks very pocketable still compared to a bigger slab.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I want to.
But if you just embrace the big thing, it's like boom, you have a very ginormous but awesome and easy to use phone once you accommodate it, right? And you just own it.
This is a question about compatibility. This is from 2 very, very similar questions, both on X. And one of them is from Pop Punk Iceballs, which is a very cool name. Will the 15 Pro and Pro Max Clicks keyboard be updated to have the same features of the 16 Pro? Really would love the MagSafe and data pass-through. And then Aaron Gupta on X says, with how far back you're supporting the iPhone 14, What factors will determine how far back you'll support older Samsungs and Pixels, like the 23 and the Pixel 7? I think Jeff probably has a pretty polished answer to this, but Kevin has a pretty succinct answer to it that he gave the other day.
I want to hear the succinct one first, and then we'll.
What's the six? I'm like, I don't know. So
you said something like
the answer is no.
Yeah, we're focused on looking forward, not to.
Definitely looking forward. Because with time, everybody upgrades and catches up to us, right? So it doesn't make sense for us to go build clicks for the iPhone 11, 12, 13, because those people are going to upgrade to 16s, 17s, 18s, or 15s that are on sale. Also when we built the first version of Clicks, we developed it on the Lightning connector, which was the iPhone 14. And then as we were developing it, then Apple switched to USB-C. So we had to, do all of our R&D changes and things to accommodate for USB-C. Once that was done, I would say Apple created the line to say probably doesn't make sense to go backwards and build for older iPhone models anymore. Stick with USB-C devices and going forward. So I think there it became a very clear delineation of the 14 has Lightning connectors. That's where we started, but the future is USB-C. So let's build for that. In the world of Android, I think I wish these phones could just be one size fits all. Like I wish our Galaxy S25 version we announced could support the 24 and the 23. But lo and behold, the Samsung made it just a little bit thinner. So if you build for the 25, don't hope that your 24 is going to shoehorn into it. It won't.
Right.
Now, maybe if we build
sometimes
for the
20,
we get
lucky about that. That worked on Razr.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Great.
But we could probably make more money quicker if we built for the 24 and get to more customers quicker because they have the phone. But we've also seen that most people want to buy accessories for the devices when the device is relatively new. They're not looking to spend money on it when it's a year or two old, that kind of thing. So
good point.
It's tricky. There's a lot to balance there.
I'm a big fan of that reasoning, and Jeff, I think Kevin stole your thunder there.
But I wasn't succinct at all. I don't know what the succinctness was.
Well, what I'll say is the only time I've ever gone like militantly anti that thinking, just for in the spirit of keeping this a podcast of actual revelations and not just talking points, is like I really wanted to make for the iPhone Mini. I wanted to build Clicks for the Mini, but by the time we were building Clicks for 14, 13 Mini was, I think, already discontinued, right? And the user base was clearly not large enough to support an effort in that direction. And that made me mad. Made me mad like the number row decision, which we'll talk about on another show. But in the same exact way, I was like, I really want to make this, but they're right. They're 100% right, and we don't have the resources of a giant corporation to just be like, what, this is going to be.
Money was no object.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So
if money was no object, and tool and molding engineers weren't rarer than leprechauns, then.
Another good point.
Yeah. And one of the questions we got, I think it's related even, and I'll use the iPhone 15 as the example here. I would see some comments and questions from the community saying like, well, why don't you just do a bigger camera cutout or bigger side cutouts and just have all the buttons exposed, and you could fit more models maybe into one version of Clicks and support more that way. And we built for made for iPhone compliance, which is an Apple standard and program they run.
MFI,
and you can't get an app into the App Store unless you have MFI certification and just even the way we tap into iOS, you want to be MFI certified.
A lot of people
don't
know
that. I didn't know
part
of that is your accessory has to fit perfect. So even though there's a lot of logical things, it's like once you commit to something, you're kind of committed to it. So
yeah. Well, I've got a cheekier answer on that one, which is
good.
No, like we're trying to build a product that's like beautiful and feels great in your hand, not an erector set, that's coming off Kickstarter, right? It's an expensive premium product. And so it should feel like a natural extension of the phone that you're using, right?
But the new answer is if you are on a current phone and you want us to like build backwards for you, the real answer is go buy a Razr on sale right now because they're closer to a year old. You can start finding deals on them.
You've been able to find great deals on the Razr. Yeah,
buy Clicks for that, and that's a better solution for everyone than waiting for us to support your older device.
There are some great other questions in the Q&A, but we're running a little short on time, so I just want to actually...
One more.
You want to do one more? All right,
One
sounds
more.
good. Yeah. This is from Wesley Ware on Blue Sky. Would you ever want to explore other formats of physical keys from back in the day, like a vertical slider version, if the mechanism could be slim enough? Yes, 100%. Yes, I've always wanted to do that, and then everyone reminds me of like, okay, but then we have to develop a solution for covering up the camera. And then we have to develop a solution for the USB hijacking because that has a constraint. Okay. And then there's a weight thing. And then there's wireless charging. Okay.
Probably MagSafe will
Can I just
up and
now I'm jacked up. The one that pisses me off because it's
that type of podcast.
Because it's a
why
it's
didn't you
kind
tell
of
me this? You're supposed to say this at the start of the show. Nobody gave me ground rules. It's like, are we allowed to drink? Can I swear? I'm like, do I have to have my hair showing? Do I put on a collar? That's why I'm wearing a hat with this.
You show up early. I'll give you ground rules.
Full disclosure. We said
this is a good segue towards Kevin's rant. Kevin's corner.
I don't even want to rant. I'm just like, get guidance. What you want from me?
So since you brought up this idea of some kind of articulating form factor, the one that gets me is people saying, well, you should make a horizontal slider, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the old Pro 1X or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, great in concept until you try to type on it. Like with the size of these like 6.1 and 6.7 inch screens, how are you going to thumb type on a landscape keyboard that is
Look
that
how far I
comfortable?
have to move.
You've got 47 HTC tilt fans in your inbox, Jeff. Like that's what is it? Jeff at clicks.tech, everybody.
Come get me.
This is beautiful hardware, by the way. It's just I'm not a landscape typer guy.
Well,
I think it goes back to your thing. Like we've thought about all these ideas, and it's not that they're bad ideas. Just we're thinking about them not just from a would it be cool to do, but what's the usability, what's the feasibility, the functionality, et cetera, and if we want to build the best period end of sentence mobile typing experience, two thumb typing experience, you got to optimize for usability, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I will say this, I've been thinking of the landscape idea in a totally different direction that I will someday sell you guys on. And I will not speak any further about that on this episode. Anyway.
I think since it's Jeff's rant, and I'm not even ranting, but I'm just going to finish it. But I think the thing that is most interesting launching a product like Clicks, reading through the comments and that, is you get a lot of ideas from the community very quickly, right? Like, what about this idea? Why didn't you do it this way? How about this? Couldn't you have done this? Do this. Why don't you do this? And we've probably thought about keyboards on phones more than anybody has over the span of years. Let me say it succinctly. I have yet to see an idea from the community or in a comment that I haven't thought of myself at some point, and usually it was 10 years ago or 12 years ago or 5 years ago. So there's like every permutation combination of an idea or trick, like pretty much I'm waiting to be surprised with an idea where I'm like, that's an idea.
To be clear, not a flex. This is just a byproduct of the fact that we've only
existed it's not
in
being
this
good.
world
It's just
for
like
so long.
Thank you. Yeah, not being cocky, zero. I'm the dumbest guy on this podcast. But I've thought about this so long for so many years, like there's nothing left, right? There's only so many things. But then the thing is, we've kind of also tried or explored them all. And when you look at a product like Clicks, people see the thing in front of them and they comment on that and react to that. But then when you actually go into manufacturing, everything that's not there, there's also a story of why it's not there or why we couldn't do something. And I think that makes me look at products all over the place differently now. Like people want to design something in their head. They have a dream vision. They want to execute it. And maybe one day they will be able to, but maybe today they can't. So you have to always work within physics and what is in the realm of possibility now. And sorry, is that a rant? I don't know if it's a rant.
No, it was good. That was a good.
I'm just saying, I love all the ideas, keep them coming, but the obvious ones are obvious, and obviously we've looked at them and thought about them, and may or may not be working on them.
I am happy to say that was those three questions from. Thank you, audience, for your questions. Were submitted almost immediately when I asked. So there are a lot of questions out there. We have like 10 more, and they've continued to come in. So we'll give our socials at the end of the show. You can submit as they come in. But I just wanted to say, I think that's going to be a fun segment because that's right. Like I said at the beginning, part of this is about pulling back the curtain, right? And being
Is
like,
this a pilot
here's
episode? Are we calling it the pilot episode so we can,
Yeah.
discuss? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
pilot.
So because we look back on it after 5 episodes and be like, oh, what were we doing? Oh,
Yeah.
God. I kept drinking that fizzy drink right in the mic. Anyway,
Who's this show for, Michael? Who are we actually talking to? That's
we
my
don't talk.
question.
No, that's classified. That's classified.
Okay.
So
Talking to
two
anyone
things-
who's going to listen to the pilot. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're doing this again. Why? Whose idea was this? I'm like,
Nope, not mine.
are we calling it a ClicksCast? Because that
Yeah.
writes itself,
That's
obviously.
what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not.
Yeah,
We're not going through a
non-negotiable, it's
whole
a
ideation
ClicksCast.
phase. We're not having meetings about this. It's called the ClicksCast.
If you've got ideas on what to call the podcast, Michael,
Yeah,
ClicksCast.
send them to someone else, and I
Nope.
won't read those emails.
It is decided. ClicksCast it is.
There are 2 segments, and Jeff, I'm sorry that we don't have a segment already pre-made for you. But if you would like a segment of your own at the end of these episodes, I would very much like you to have one. Kevin asked for one, and initially there was only one built for him. But then I had to add one of my own because I wanted to tell a story very briefly that, again, this is part of pulling back the curtain and telling things that are not ordinarily told. Now, Kevin knows this. Jeff, I don't know. You only know this if Kevin told you in Barcelona. Sometimes unexpected things happen, especially when you employ a screw-up YouTuber. And one of the cool things about early products, working on early products, is that you get to use them internally. And if you're me, you have to film a whole video about them ahead of time, ahead of release. Yeah, Jeff, have you heard
I think I know
about
where this is going now. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, so folks, I don't think it's a secret how many of these we had, right? The handmade samples? Like
Totally a secret. Do not disclose that number.
there were fewer than 200 of them. No, there were just a very, very limited number of handmade samples. And Kevin said, the last thing he said to me, I think at CES, as we were leaving for the airport, he said, well, just keep it pristine because we can't replace it. I said, okay, yeah, you got it, no problem. So I was out at a place called the Peter Luger Steakhouse a couple weeks ago in New York City. Great
Tasty.
place, former Michelin star ranked place, no longer, but food still tastes very good. And I didn't know, but they give you these as part of your dessert at Peter Luger. They give you these chocolate coins, these kind of gold foil wrapped coins, is like a novelty thing. Well, I had a lovely dinner with David Kogan, who owns the coffee shop from which I'm broadcasting today, and we hadn't caught up in a long time, so we got some drinks after dinner at a dive bar called Horses and Divorces, which I heartily recommend.
Okay.
And I had one of those nights where you ended up waking up the next day and every light in your apartment is on and you're asleep on the couch in your clothes and your overcoat. So really great times. This is going to get us delisted from LinkedIn, folks. I don't think anybody can talk about this stuff there. But I reach into my pocket. I'm like, where the hell is that Razr? And sure enough, the Razr Berry had become one with the Peter Luger dessert coins. And with the video viewers are getting a real
I said
treat.
keep it pristine.
You said keep it pristine, and instead, chocolate impregnated every crack in the clay. It had to have an extended bath, and
So are you saying we have to update the FAQ on the website to say warranty does not cover melted chocolate?
not rated against melted chocolate.
Melted
Do not
chocolate
try this at
coins
home.
from Peter Luger's.
Yeah, I'm just grateful I got all the shots I needed before that. So things go wrong. There are surprises at every point in the making stuff.
So what is this particular segment of yours called? Like Michael's mishaps or something?
Michael's confession corner. So
Oh,
every
Michael's
week
confession,
I'm gonna come
okay.
prepared with some way I screwed up and almost cost us
God.
the company.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a podcast. Kevin,
Yes.
your thing is we're calling the rebuttal roundup, and I don't know why we built this. I forgot, but you said, like seconds after the idea came for this podcast, you said, I want a rebuttal corner. So okay,
It was to tell people that they're wrong.
oh, is that what it was?
Pretty much it,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yes, we thought of that. Okay, got it. So did
Fair
you do it? Did you do it already? Did you tell enough people that they're wrong, or are you going to tell more people?
No, I feel like I kind of had my rant on the.
Okay.
It's not about. So, look, for anybody who doesn't know me, I spent 15 years in community forums and everything, arguing with all the Blackberry users of the world, and not arguing against them, arguing for them a lot of times, being that person, but engaged in community discussion where I'm used to people with very strong opinions and personalities stating their points. And what's interesting is when you're, quote, a brand like Clicks is, where we're, selling a product for people's money, often what happens is that line that, was it Ogilvy in the 1930s came up with, like, customer is always right?
Oh.
Is that, Jeff, you got to correct me. Who was that? I can't remember if it was Ogilvy or another marketer.
I'll get back to you with that one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
While I'm talking, so there's the notion in your head as a brand where you're like, well, you can't argue with the customer because the customer is always right. And what I've learned in the past 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, is, sometimes the customer is right. Sometimes the customer isn't always right. And I would like an opportunity to debate that sometimes. So as much as I love customers, I love the support, I also have the customer in me who is the old forum argumentative type, and I would like that place to debate and respond. And maybe sometimes if we have these things pop up, we can even invite guests on the show and we could have a public debate over a contentious point of agreement or disagreement.
That would be an awful lot of fun.
So I think there's fun things, the world of Clicks, like, round buttons versus square buttons, what is better? Like, that's a nice debate point. How do you, something doesn't feel right in the hand, or it feels like I'm holding it, and I'm like, well, are you changing the way you hold it to accommodate the design of the device? Because it's designed differently than, a little old Blackberry used to be, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think having a place to debate those things is good. But I think I already did my segment today without setting it up as a segment.
That sounds good. You'll have it again in the future. Don't worry.
Woo!
Jeff, I want you to give. You gave us the.
I dropped it in the chat. So a quick little bit of Googling told me that in 1909, retailer Harry Gordon Selfridge of Selfridges coined the term "the customer is always right, except for when they're wrong," and Kevin says so.
Funny enough, though, Clicks is available at Selfridges London, so that was our first place we started with retail. So maybe I take it all back.
If you had asked AI that same question, you would have gotten the answer that it was invented by the Gordon's fishermen in 1931, and that would have been a lot of fun. We do have an awful lot of plans. We are also out of time. I think this went well. I'm going to give us a good grade on a nice conversation, and we'll have we'll see. And if anyone hears
I've been
this,
fretting
then
it.
Well, I think we have to score each other individually, though. So I gave myself a 4 out of 10. I think I can be much better. I think overall,
well, you weren't prepared. The host did not. We can just set you up for success.
I feel like a guest on my own show. It's weird.
You are a guest. This is my show.
So strange. What?
Hey, look. All right.
So whoever hits the record button, it's their podcast. Where was the?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. I think this was great, and look, we have really good ideas for the future. Gadway, do you agree that we should keep doing this?
This was so much fun. It exceeded my expectations, and I'm really excited to share the behind the scenes on creating a company, the joys, the challenges, the tears, everything that goes along with it, and give people kind of an unfiltered look at what it means to, not just build a brand, but, build a product and bring it to a lot of people.
Big agree, man. I'm glad, and I'm glad we were forced into doing this by each other, because we've delayed this, folks, once or twice, and we finally said, look, we just got to do it. And if we hate it, we'll delete it. So if you're listening to this, we didn't hate it. So good for us.
So whose idea was it, though? Because I forgot. Was it mine?
It was your idea.
Yours.
But
Kevin, you were pushing for this.
So we're saying it's my show.
We're saying
it's my show, and I'm a guest on my show. Everybody heard it here. This kind of sucks, but fine.
You
can have it, Michael. I will join whenever you invite me. And if you don't invite me, whatever. You can go.
Whatever. Hey,
you're number one to market.
Everybody.
I promise I will sometimes be on this show. And if I'm not here, it's cool. You're going to have a great time without me.
Yeah. If Kevin's not here, we're beeping. Gentlemen, this has been delightful. Friends out there, thank you for joining us for the kickoff of the ClicksCast. We have a lot of it planned for future installments, including guest appearances. Yes, I did not know that we were going to extend it beyond the Clicks family, but that sounds really fun. We have a team of like 20 plus, so we have a lot of resources.
We got to bring on Joseph Hofer, the Blackberry industrial designer guy, because
To
I
talk
think that
about
the
why round
debates.
and square is not like people are not approaching that from.
Yeah.
From
I
an
think he's
informed
going to be a
perspective.
recurring guest because
Yes, he
even
has
if
to
not
be.
for the whole episode, just to have him on for like
Yeah.
specific debate topics, people will
And
love
to
that.
reinforce my earlier point, like we have great Q&As already stacked up from viewers, and if you like Ryan
Yeah.
Hager had a good one. If I didn't get to him today, it's because I'm saving him for a Hofer pod, particularly.
Are we keeping it like totally techie, or can we talk about things like tariffs? Like, do you want to hear how my day's going today? Because like I'm like,
Yeah.
I've just been talking about tariffs for 4 hours, and now we're talking this, and I'm like, this is great. But after
I
this
want
call,
to
I'm
talk
gonna
all
go-
of it.
business
I want
reality,
to talk
right?
all of
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
the
No,
business, the product, the marketing, like
Yeah.
the customer stories. I want to get into it all.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the trap is to keep it a techie show week after week, because then it just becomes something we've kind of all done before, right?
It's like a tech podcast, but we want to
Exactly.
go a little bit. Okay, that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
And
would
maybe-
listen to this.
Yeah, like on one of those episodes, maybe you could host, Kevin. We'll see if you're good.
It's your show. I don't want to.
it's my show now.
Whatever you want to do,
Right.
sir.
Yeah,
You know what? There's been no talk of. There's been no talk of me hosting. So
no, Jeff, it's
yeah.
never going to be Jeff's show. Yeah, no. Just kidding. We could
you're
host
like,
it.
yeah, we won't talk about anything interesting.
Not true. Then I can be the disruptor. I can be the bad kid in the back
I
of the
feel
class.
like we should stop recording and now re-record this podcast right
Oh,
now
yeah?
with
So
this
this is the
energy
rehearsal?
level, and it'll be so
Yeah.
much better. It'll be like a 10 out of 10.
It was great.
People will be like, "How is your first episode so good?" And they won't know it was actually our second.
True enough. All right. Well, in that case, yeah. Friends, if you've got feedback, questions, or topic suggestions for future episode, email me, because it's my show, Michael@clicks.tech.
So bitch.
Or you can find us on social. Jeff, tell people where to yell at you.
I think it's at Jeff Gadway on Instagram.
Kevin, I got a teleprompter in my face. You go, we have a Clicks truck model?
Well,
I didn't
I
know
have
that.
a Clicks truck model. You don't.
Well, I
So-
don't at all. Wait,
But he has a
I
podcast,
No.
and you don't.
But he has a
So.
I got a platform, baby. Jeff, hold on. Kevin, be quiet. Jeff, where do people find you on the internet?
At Jeff Gadway on Instagram, or however you find people on LinkedIn.
Don't be. No, you're on Threads too. I tagged you on Threads, so you're there.
Yes.
Okay, good. Kevin?
I'm at Crackberry Kevin everywhere except Blue Sky, because I didn't want to seem out of touch and have to ask you during the show what Blue Sky meant. But I'm sure most of our listeners are like, Michael's like, thanks for the comment on Blue Sky. And the thing in their head was like, what's Blue Sky? So I'm taking one for the team. What's Blue Sky?
Got a lot of volume coming from Blue Sky, FYI. Yeah, so at Kevin on any of the other socials if you want to yell at him
Crackberry
about his Blue
Kevin
Sky
everywhere
account.
else.
That's right. And I am on all the feeds as Captain Two Phones. That's Captain, the number 2 phones. Hey, next up on ClicksCast episode 2, Kevin, if you didn't remember, we sketched this out already. The origin story.
Oh,
How we came together to build a business around a unique idea.
you're so pro. It's like you'd think that should be episode 1, but
No, but no. That's
No, you do that, like-
smashes on the table, then you go back
Wow.
on the floor. Anyway, that's enough from us. It has been a privilege, gentlemen. I love you. Thank you for the time.
peace.
See you next time.
Until next time, keep your keyboard safely clicking. The ClicksCast is done. Good night, everybody.